Well, thank you so much for joining us for our February edition of What Were They Thinking? Food Edition. And we decided this month to go with some sweet treats that you might want to feed your beloved to let them know that you care, maybe. I'm sitting here with Kyle, Donna, and I am Caitlin. And yeah, let's get started.
All right. So we have two flavors, the powdered sugar and the citrus topping, but I think we all voted for citrus topping.
Yeah, and this is our poor man's cake with watermelon rind.
Yes, and we all get a little scoop of watermelon rind to try watermelon rind on its own, just to see what it's like.
So why, Donna, is it called a poor man's cake?
Well, during the war and during the Depression, the First World War, supplies were quite limited on what you could get in the home due to rationing and also due to, well, the Depression. So you had to kind of substitute a lot of things that you might not have available, like milk and butter were expensive. And also rationed by using fruits like the watermelon rind that is preserved in a syrup. You wouldn't dry out the fruits first. You would use the moisture from the fruits, and some people would actually even boil the raisins to give it even more moisture, and that would be in substitution of the butter and the milk that you would use in a regular cake.
Okay.
So you were poor, and this is your poor cake.
So what would be the message if you sent your beloved in 2020 a poor man's cake?
Well, surprisingly, doing some research on them this weekend, I found out that they're a big thing. Like, you can order it at some of the fanciest restaurants in New York.
Wow.
So it's a kind of a different take, because I think it can be dairy free, it can be vegan, it can be.
That's true.
You don't have to use those.
So from being a poor man's cake to a rich man's delicacy.
Let's try.
Yeah. I'm gonna try just the watermelon rind first.
It was my first time trying it too.
It's very gingery, but then you got the tartness of the fruit that's suspended throughout the cake, so it's kind of a fruit cakey look in the middle.
Surprisingly lighter than I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah.
But yes, the spices are because spices were a lot. It was a lot easier just to spice things up for flavor. And believe it or not, there's also a tablespoon of cocoa powder.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can taste the hint of cocoa. And the orange glaze really helps with that.
Yeah. And the watermelon rind has been pickled, which is something that, I mean, a lot of people were doing to preserve food at this time. So
So this is a sweet preserve versus the spicy. You would have, if you wanted it to be more like a dill pickle, it would be in vinegars still with the ginger and the cinnamon and the clove. But because this is to be used as a sweet pickle, it is preserved with still the ginger, the cinnamon, the clove, but sugar in a sugar syrup.
Actually, I really like these preserves.
yeah, I really like the watermelon rind. It's not super sweet, but it's like sweet enough.
Kyle really liked the watermelon rind.
Yeah, it's like a little candy.
Yeah, that's what my husband said too. He goes, "This is like World War II candy."
Right?
It is good.
So even when you were rationing and doing your victory garden and having to can and pickle everything, you could still have nice things that tasted really good.
And watermelon rind is actually very high in vitamins, so it's a good part of the watermelon that just gets thrown away today.
So if I ate that entire can, it would be healthy.
You-
Fine.
If you just ignored the sugar.
Big part of it.
But it is preserved in sugar and lemon juice instead of sugar and water. So you have to squeeze out a lot of lemons.
Yeah. Well, that's how you get your workout
Mhm.
before you eat it.
Before you eat all the...
So then it evens out. It's fine.
This is actually I was a little scared because I have had the pickled watermelon rinds with vinegar and dill. And this called for the preserves, thank goodness. But I was a little worried because I had never had watermelon rind preserves. And I'm not the biggest fan of fruitcake, but this is not really heavy like a fruitcake.
It's very light and it's pretty crumbly too, so it's not super duper dense either.
Yeah, I would totally actually eat this.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they're doing so well in, the upscale restaurants in New York.
Could be.
This is good.
So what do you think would have been a more common topping, the orange glaze or the powdered sugar?
I'm going to say not during wartime the orange glaze, but you can use any citrus because it called for a citrus glaze. So a lemon and orange. I don't know if I go lime.
Yeah.
Lemon's probably more popular, but I didn't have a lemon. I had an orange, so we went with orange. But the several recipes that I like, the recipe that we used from the Birmingham Eccentric did not actually specify a topping. It says just make like other cakes. And I'm like, okay, well that's really helpful. So I did a little more research and I looked at other cookbooks from the same time period, and one of them recommended either or. But I did find a lot where it had a glaze or a very simple sugar topping or something like that.
Right.
So I think either or.
Yeah, because this recipe is from 1940, so
1940.
we're talking early. America's entry into the war pretty early
Correct.
on, so.
Yeah, right before we entered the war.
Okay.
But rationing is being seen overseas by 1940. We
Right.
are seeing supplies being limited by this time period. And of course, the United States just came out of the Depression. So that idea of frugality, like we have to make sure that everything lasts long enough, is still with the cooks in the kitchen.
Now, I have to be the youngin' here. And I'm sure these viewers, some of you might wonder, are these preserved, are they vegan?
As in...
No animal product.
Yes, they are vegan. There's no animal product.
Okay.
So it's basically watermelon rind, whole ginger that's been sliced, lemon juice, a little bit of water, and then some cinnamon and some clove, and that's it. That's all that's in the watermelon rind.
Well, boom, there you go. Everybody can have it.
And if you get a Depression era cake recipe, a lot of them will not call for eggs, butter, or milk because you use the watermelon rind or boiled raisins to add the moisture. So yeah, you could do a pretty nice vegan cake with this. This one's not. This one does have about a quarter of the butter that you would use in a normal cake of this size. So it does have some butter.
Okay. Well, cool.
Yeah. So
Do you want some more? Do you want to try the powdered sugar one?
Oh, I can't be the only one that tries
I want more preserves. I want more candy.
All right.
Thank you much.
Do you want more candy?
I already had more candy.
Okay.
So, rating out of 5.
I am surprisingly pleased with the outcome. I was a little worried because I'm a big fan of Mary Berry and the British Baking Show. And last night I had a horrible dream that she came into my kitchen and she has that look of sympathy, because she can never say anything truly bad.
Right.
But she just
she has the look.
She gave me the look, and I was like, oh. And I was really... And it came out really good, and I'm happy. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5.
Same here. I would totally eat this every day.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. It's not overly sweet like a lot of cakes are, so it's It's not bad, and I really like the preserves, so I'm gonna go 5 out of 5 too.
That's the first time we ever did 5 out of 5. 5 up.
History has been made.
Don't leave me hanging.
Oh,
I thought it was just a celebration. All right, so you heard it first. Poor man's cake.
5 out of 5.
Yeah,
I love what they were thinking.
across the board. Yeah, they
Yes.
They had some good thoughts here.
They had some really good thoughts here.
So thank you so much for tuning in, and join us next month. We'll be having our poll up on our Facebook and Twitter pages probably in the next couple weeks as to what we should eat in March. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you soon.